Hey, you're about to hear our brand new podcast, My Crazy Family. And if you like it, I need your help. To let other folks know that this show exists, we need reviews on Apple Podcasts. So if you got about 10, 15 free seconds, please head over to Apple Podcasts, leave us a quick review, and I'll make it worth your while. Send me a screenshot of that review, and I'll enter you into a contest to win a $500 Amazon gift card. So leave the review on Apple Podcasts, send me the screenshot to contest@crazyfampod.com. That's contest@crazyfampod.com. And later in the year, we'll randomly pick someone for that $500 Amazon gift card. So please leave that review at Apple Podcasts, then send me the screenshot. Contest@crazyfampod.com. And thanks. You ever have a situation where your parents say, hey, I see you're working on that project. I'd be happy to lend a hand, and then they do, and everything goes to shit.
Yeah, what are you supposed to do? Do you ask them to redo what they did, or do you just fire them?
You just keep going and then fix it later. That's the issue on one of our stories today on My Crazy Family.
My crazy family. My crazy family.
Welcome to the program. Be sure to press subscribe wherever you download podcasts. You don't miss any episodes of our show. And leave us a review there on Apple Podcasts. We do greatly appreciate that. In fact, if you do that, you'll be entered to win a $500 Amazon gift card if you send me a screenshot of that review. Just send it to contest@crazyfampod.com. That's contest@crazyfampod.com, the screenshot of that review. And later in the year, we'll randomly pick somebody and get them hooked up with that $500 Amazon gift card just in time for the holidays. So we do greatly appreciate that. And we want to hear your stories, too. Crazyfampod.com is the website where you can share your stories or call 833-CRAY-FAM. That's 833-272-9326 to share your crazy family story with us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Tony and Stacey Cole with you on today's episode. What's up?
Hey, and don't forget, you can be completely anonymous. We don't want to out anybody. We don't want to scare families. We don't want to scare anybody. But sometimes it's just really good to talk about this stuff.
And what's really fun is if you share your story and we air it, and you're at that family get-together later in the year, you can kind of go off to the side for a little walk or a smoke or a drink or whatever with that cousin that you haven't seen forever that also knows the family's fucking crazy, and go, listen to this shit. Then you can play it.
You know, there's power in getting your story out there, and we do it in such a way that it can't be identified.
Yeah.
We've seen some things where people have actually said some names. Black that out. Nope.
Yep.
Not putting a name in there.
Yep.
So it's not going to happen, but your story might sound familiar to somebody else.
That's just the interesting thing. You think, oh, there's no other families like this. Oh, yes,
yeah, there's plenty.
There's a lot of them. So yeah, share your story with us, crazyfampod.com or our phone number, which is 833-CRAY-FAM. You can call it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and share your story there. 833-272-9326. What do we got going on this week?
Our first one starts like this. I was born into a deeply Southern family in the United States. Consequently, we have many dark secrets that aren't mentioned in polite company. Here's a few of the more interesting ones. My great-great-grandfather's first family was the result of him raping one of his slaves.
God.
He kept the kids from that marriage in bondage until slavery was abolished in 1865. Soon after the war, he married my great-great-grandmother and set up his slave family on a plot of land nearby. He always encouraged the children from his marriage to make sure that the former slave line was well taken care of. Throughout the Jim Crow era, many of the family would go to make sure that those cousins weren't being harassed by the KKK. One of my distant cousins was the sheriff in the 1930s and ran the KKK out of town after it happened. Neither side will deny the relationship, but we don't associate with each other either. Good Lord. All right, the next part of the story.
Yeah.
There's a story that half my family believes and the other half does not. The story goes that one of my ancestors worked for the railroad in the South, and in his travels, killed African-American workers and then burned their bodies in the locomotive engine where they burned the coal.
Oh, my God.
He then separated the ashes out and later mixed the ashes into the local highway that was being repaved with concrete. I have no proof either way that this story is real, but the story has persisted.
Is the highway cursed? Are there a lot of accidents on that part of the highway?
That's a really good question. Oh my God. All right, I'm going to keep reading.
Yeah.
My jaw dropped. My great-grandfather's house burned down in the 1950s, and it was ruled a tragic accident. Yet a few weeks later, some of the more important family heirlooms were found with some of my relatives. The belief is that they burned it down for the insurance money. In the 1930s, one of my distant relatives owned a business that was doing well enough to hire an additional worker. This was during the Great Depression, so they took pity and hired a guy that had been passing through and seemed reliable. Everything was going fine until a few months later when the owner, my relation, was found tied up and dead in his office. It turned out the worker and an associate had killed him when he walked in on them robbing the business. The associate who had done the killing was executed, but the worker had turned in state's evidence and was just given a long prison sentence. He was put on a chain gang a few years later, and one day they were working on a road that cuts through a forest when a sniper shot him dead.
Oh my God.
Officially, we have no idea who shot him, but unofficially, we're claiming another relative did it.
That's a lot to unpack. Is there more?
That's it.
Oh my God.
That's it.
So you go back to the first part of the story where he rapes a slave and then I guess has the decency to take care of them after you
We've
rape
heard
some-
stories
Yeah.
like that before, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, rape's never good ever. And the fucked up thing is okay, then he turns it into a family, and because there's some good in this of you took care of people, but you raped somebody to start this. So,
Yeah, it is just a horrific beginning of a family.
Yeah.
And just awful.
How bizarre. I mean, the thing is, I don't think that things like this were very uncommon.
Yeah.
Back in the day, down there. And there's a lot of stories like this that and the family just looked the other way. I'm like, well, this is how we do things. This is normal.
Well, and at that time, there wasn't much that they could do. You know, if you were an advocate of people of color, you were a target. So
Yeah.
it was a very difficult time. And until slavery was abolished, even then, it's been, a difficult time. The story that really, I guess, gets me right in the pit of my stomach was the whole killing of people and burning their bodies in the train engine and then mixing them in with the concrete. My God.
So you got one that's helping to get rid of the Klan and get them out of the area, and the other is burning them in a train engine. So it makes you go, what happened with that guy? What happened in the family where that person went so far, pardon the pun, went off the rails and thought that this is the way of life? And again, some argue it didn't happen, some argue it did happen. The South in that time period, I think anything is possible, quite honestly.
Yeah, I would believe that story. I really would. And, stories, family stories, they get a little twisted. In my family, I have heard some crazy shit like that I am descendant from royalty in Russia. I don't have any proof. And when I did 23andMe, I don't see any evidence of it, but it was a crazy story that I had always heard when I was a child, that my grandfather was royalty. So somebody is either making some shit up or I don't know, but with 23andMe, you would think I would know this.
Who was the person that you heard the stories of royalty from?
My grandfather.
Was he a reputable individual?
Yeah, that man didn't lie about anything.
Oh,
that's where it kind of makes me scratch my head. But when I look at my genetics, there's nothing that's connecting me to anybody.
Well, you did the genetics, but did you do the family tree thing too? Like Ancestry, where you go and dig in the tree?
Yeah, and my tree comes to a definite stop at one point. Like there's nothing else available. So, it's possible.
Yeah.
it's possible that maybe there was some Russian crap going on. I don't know. I don't know, but it's an interesting story. And I always chuckle when people are like, yeah, that's just a family tale that's always been told, because I've got those too. And I just don't know what to believe.
It's interesting where people would just say shit years ago and either it's real or it's not, but they don't realize that all these years later that we would have ways of looking these things up or confirming them. Because you wouldn't. I mean, I never in my mind did I think I could send my DNA off somewhere and then go on a website and go, oh, look, all these people you're related to.
No kidding. I get alerts all the time that I have a new relative that showed up,
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe I'll find out I'm related to Vladimir Putin or some crazy shit. I don't know.
Cousin Vlad. Hey. Yeah. Vlad, come on over. It's interesting. I've done I think I did the Ancestry one. And what I found interesting, and I haven't dived too far into it because I don't have an extra day in the week, but the little bit that I have looked, it's interesting where they match up and they say, here's these people who share your DNA and it shows percentage of the DNA that's shared. And there's some on there that are like pretty fucking high. I have no idea who they are. And my family is pretty tight knit. Like both sides, there, as far as I know, there's not many secrets. Everybody knows, the aunts, the uncles. There's not a lot of hiding anything. So I'm wondering.
Sounds like there might be some secrets.
Well, there might be, but I don't know that it's necessarily like the family, quote unquote, is hiding it more so than it is like a member of a family somewhere is hiding something that nobody knows about.
Ooh.
Where
the plot thickens.
And I'm not saying it was like evil or anything, but it's more like, did somebody get drunk at a bar and get someone pregnant? And did they ever even know about the baby or this person existing, or did they and they just didn't share it with anybody? Because I think there's like some cousins out there that I don't know who the fuck these people are, and they don't have the same name or anything like that, but somebody fucked.
Sharing the genetics is pretty high.
Somebody fucked somebody somewhere and made a baby, and now they're adults. And I have an aunt that was pointing that out. She's like, you see this one? Like, they're pretty high on our like our list of, or our percentage of shared DNA. Do you have any idea who that is? Like, no clue.
Nope.
Yeah.
Well, and the beautiful thing about these genetic services is you can message these people.
Yeah. And I've not done that yet, but I haven't looked at it in great depth, but I'm curious because that would be an interesting thing to dive into and look at a little bit more. But I don't know if I even want to open the can of worms. Because
I was just going to say, you need to proceed very lightly because you could be opening a whole can of something somebody wanted to keep quiet.
And my family is one that I think would actually do the whole, let's pretend this doesn't exist and keep moving forward and not really address it. Like where others would be, oh, let's figure this out. Even if they did know or they didn't know, if it puts a bump in the road, there's no bump. It's just keep going. There's no bump. Let's keep going. There's nothing happening.
Never happened. Nope.
I don't know, but there's that's interesting. I'm just hoping to maybe at some point find a serial killer along the lines.
Tony.
Then I could be like, hey, I'm your third cousin. Can I have you on the show someday? And then we can have an interesting conversation about.
Yeah, but then they have access to you as a family member. Think about that.
Just a phone call.
God. Yeah, I don't want that.
They're locked away. I'm not worried.
Well, as long as they're locked away, you know?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. That's one thing you want to be sure of, that they're not getting out anytime soon. So, yeah, well, that's a fun family history there. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, that one definitely interesting. Our next one, our infant was born August 11th of this year, and I want to wait until at least mid-October before we travel 2 hours to see my husband's family. My mother-in-law threw an absolute fit when we told her this. RSV and COVID are real and extremely dangerous with infants, and my mother-in-law absolutely reeks of cigarette smoke. Okay, First of all, I'm going to say right off the bat, I have no problem with this.
No.
She goes on to say, mother-in-law lives with his grandparents, his aunt, and his brother's 2 kids, plus the rest of his extended family is going to want to see the baby as well. I'm just trying to keep my baby as safe as I can. I can't wait to hear how they lose their shit when I tell them no kissing on the face, and we will be enforcing not only that, but hand washing before you hold her, and
Yeah.
no smoking around or before holding her.
Yeah.
What's the problem with that?
The problem, there is no logical problem with that. The problem is a family that's what they do and what they've always done. And if somebody from the outside comes in and says, don't kiss on the face, or especially the lips, maybe of your loved ones, because it's COVID, and it's just kind of creepy even when it's not COVID.
Well, you have to be so careful. Even before COVID, before this horrific pandemic, babies are extremely fragile.
Yeah.
And their immune system is transferring from having the mother's immunity to their immunity developing. So whatever is best for the child is what needs to be done. And I just don't see that there even needs to be an argument here.
Yeah, I mean, any argument that's going to happen is going to be the needs of not the child, the needs of the mother-in-law, the needs of whoever wants to see the child. But ultimately, that doesn't matter. It's the mother's choice, and it's the needs of the child that should be coming first.
Yeah, absolutely. The needs of the child. I mean, the child is at a fragile time. So is the mom.
Uh-huh.
So, and the other thing, the whole reeking of cigarette smoke, out of respect, infants are extremely sensitive to things. Mom might be sensitive to things, to smells and things of that nature. So, if she doesn't want to smell like a bar at 1 a.m., that's her choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And having all the people around, what I'd suggest is go onto a high cliff somewhere and then play the Lion King song. And then hold the baby up like the was it a monkey in the Lion King?
It was a lion.
The lion.
Oh, it was the monkey that was holding up.
The monkey held the baby up. So do that. Yeah. Do that. Play Can You Feel the Love Tonight? And send them a TikTok. And there you go. Then they all get to see the baby and enjoy a little bit of Elton John, all in one sitting. So
I'm just astounded at the mother-in-laws that we've had in some of our stories where they think that they are entitled to something.
Every mother-in-law feels entitled to something. I've yet to meet one, although maybe I can say that I have met one that isn't. But I got to say, almost all of them that I've dealt with have that to a certain extent. Some very light, and I think that's normal to have an element of it, but some go to quite extremes.
That would drive me batshit crazy. It's your child. You got it out into this world. It made it through the 9-month process.
Mm-hmm.
It is your fucking choice as a parent to say what's going to happen to this child. And the mother-in-law, you had your chance with your own kids. Now sit down,
The kissing on the face thing was another interesting. Let me ask you this. Is this a Wisconsin thing? Is this an up north thing? Where people, relatives like mother, father, son, daughter, that sort of thing, when they say goodbye, they kiss on the mouth. It's not like a makeout. It's just it's like a peck. It's like love you.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
I am not familiar with that.
Because I grew up like this, where when I see my parents, or it's a quick peck on the lips. It's not it's just like, hi, that's it. And I always found it weird.
So we're not talking on the cheek.
No, we're talking on the lips. And I think they were brought up that way. And that's how because I remember being a kid and seeing like a grandparent doing that with my parents. And it's just, it's nothing sexual. It's just, that's like what they do. And then I thought, well, this is normal. This is what everybody does. And then as I got older and like I had, girlfriends, wives, things like that, they're like, why do they do that? I'm like, doesn't everybody?
No, I don't think. No, I was raised in Minnesota.
Yeah.
I live in Wisconsin. I don't think I've seen that. Now I have seen some European people do the like the cheek touch while they do just I guess a kiss into the air.
Yeah.
But no, I on the lips, that's
Yeah.
boundary.
What I'm wondering,
That's a boundary issue.
and here's what because all the people that do this are in no way predatory whatsoever in my family life, in any way, shape, or form. But what I'm wondering about is, did this practice start with someone who was predatory, who's long dead now, and then everybody just did it because that's what they were conditioned to do? That's what they thought was normal. But there was some fucked up thing along the line where this was started in some truly, not nice way that now it just exists as kind of like what the family does. I don't know. It's always been kind of weird to me. I don't know what to make of it.
It's a real possibility that it had a nefarious origin.
Yeah.
And it just kind of traveled through the generations.
And now it's just like, well, that's what you do. That's, I don't know. It's weird. And I didn't realize how weird it was until I, grew up. And you get out of your bubble and it's like, oh, this isn't what everybody does. This is not, yeah. I don't know. And I've even said it to my parents before. I'm like, why do we do this? Like, oh, there's nothing wrong with it. You just, you give them a kiss and, like, yeah, but it makes people uncomfortable.
Does it make you uncomfortable?
Initially, no, because it was normal to me. It didn't make me uncomfortable until it became like pointed out that this is kind of weird. But again, it doesn't go anywhere. There's nothing sexual about it and I've never had anybody in my family do anything or even insinuate anything like that. I don't get that vibe from anybody in my family. It's just, that's the one thing that was just kind of like, it's like I don't know, tradition is probably not the right word, but just a conditioned.
It's just what your family does.
Yeah, it's a conditioned response that they just do. But
interesting.
It is interesting and it's kind of bizarre.
Is it continuing? Does your daughter have to take part in it?
I think like my dad and my mom, like they'll give her a kiss on the lips when they see her quick. It's like, hi, honey. Mwah. And then that's it. It's not like ongoing where it's like all day. Like you're trying, it's like usually like the first time you see them in a year.
Sure.
Or when they're leaving and you're not going to see them for months. That's it. It's not like throughout the entire visit you're doing something like that. It's the only time is like that. It's like, hey, big hug and that. So I don't know. And I know like I have aunts and uncles who do that. Not to me, but to their kids. And it's just been a thing. So I didn't realize how kind of weird it was until I was older. And I don't know what to make of it. I'm curious of its origins more than anything else because I don't feel predatory or anything of that nature.
Yeah, it's just an unusual family trait.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's a Norwegian thing, if it's a German thing, if it's a Lutheran thing, if it's a something thing from somewhere. But
yeah, it started somewhere for sure.
I don't know if it's even anything to do with nationality or religion or anything like that, or if it's just some creepy fucker that, some great grandfather or something or whatever down the line did this, and everybody's like, okay. So I have no fucking clue, but it's, yeah. There's probably people like cringing right now going, oh my God. But
yeah, that's so wrong. But it's,
I don't have any.
It's only wrong if somebody from the outside sees it. Otherwise, you guys are like, yeah, that's just what we do.
You really wouldn't know. I mean, I had no idea. It was others didn't do. I'm sure there are other families who do that, but it was just always just what we did. And I have no family members that, have ever been accused of anything, and I don't suspect it with anybody or anything like that ever. And it's not me putting my head in the stand. I just don't think I have anybody in my family who's that type of a person. But
it's just fascinating.
Yeah, it's just fucking weird. All right, what else we got?
All right, my dad and I don't have a great relationship. He's narcissistic and a workaholic. He owns his own contracting construction business, and he chooses to work every day, basically all day. He's been that way my whole life. Even though we've always lived within an hour distance from each other, I've only seen him on holidays for the majority of my adult life. Last year, my husband and I bought a house only about 15 minutes from him. It needed remodeling, and I wasn't going to ask him to do it because I just didn't want to have those ties with him. I was surprised when he showed eagerness to do it, though. I guess I was hoping he had a change of heart and wanted to spend some time with me. At first, he made it sound like it could be done within a few months. He was over every day helping, He told me not to even bother unpacking the kitchen since we were going to be tearing it up. Then one day he's missing in action for days, weeks, and months. Since then, he comes over every few months, does some work for a few weeks straight, but then goes back to being missing. We've had new appliances and cabinets sitting in our garage for over a year now, and I'm torn about what to do. Every time I try to have a conversation with him about it, he says he's going to get it done as soon as possible and then doesn't. On one hand, I appreciate that we're only paying for materials and not labor, and that he's helping us on top of working full time. But on the other hand, the mental stress of it is too much. It's been over a year of my house being torn up and no end in sight. Seeing him is exhausting because we really have no relationship, and it's more just awkward and uncomfortable for me. And to top it off, I had a miscarriage recently, and his wife said awful things to me, and I haven't talked to him since. We're undergoing fertility treatment, and I would really like my house to be completed before any baby comes into the picture. But I can't have these conversations with him because he constantly lies and says he's going to be more on top of it. I've given him so many outs, and he refuses to back down. It's like he needs to be the one to do it, but also doesn't want to be the one. It appears to be some sort of control thing. I just don't even know where to start with him, how to have that conversation. I have a little personal story about construction.
Mm-hmm.
So we hired a person that we knew to put on an addition in our house. This addition, I hope I have my timing right. It feels like it took 4 years. But let's just cut it in half and say maybe I'm exaggerating. Let's just say it took 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
That we had a hole in our bedroom to the outside world for 2 years in Wisconsin. When it got to 20 below zero, we had a hole in our wall, not just a tiny hole, but a human-sized hole where another room was being built.
Did any wildlife come in?
We had birds.
At least it's just
we had
that.
birds.
Yeah.
And I lost my shit. My husband and I fought a lot during this time because I was so sick and tired of our lives being turned upside down by this person who was an amazing contractor. But as far as schedule went, we had no fucking idea when anything was going to get done.
Mm-hmm.
No idea. And let me tell you, this person does beautiful work. When it finally got done, and it's still not done, the walls are in place. It's a bathroom now. Things are working, but there's still a hole in the wall where a cabinet was supposed to be. There's just a whole bunch of stuff that never got finished because he flaked out. That's it. He just stopped coming, and we never found out why. And I don't know if it's that a creative person just doesn't want to be held down and have constraints on them. I don't know what it is, but the fact that we never had a schedule, we never knew when he was going to show. Our house was freezing because of this gaping hole. And it created a serious rift in our marriage. It had me upset because my husband was defending him because he was a friend. Mm-hmm. And I was fucking livid. I'm like, I don't want to live here anymore. Yeah. I'm uncomfortable when I sleep. And it just drives me nuts. Why can't we get this done?
Yeah.
So I get it.
No, I mean, it's something where they're talking about, the father coming in, and the daughter seems to be putting a lot of weight on the father's feelings. And how is the father going to feel if I do something here? Yeah. Stop caring about someone else's feelings who doesn't care about yours, which ultimately is kind of what that comes down to. It doesn't matter if it's your father, your spouse, your friend. If someone doesn't give a shit about your feelings and clearly demonstrates it, they're not just saying it in the heat of an argument of something really mean. They're showing it to you. They are acting it out. And they are demonstrating to you they don't fucking care. It's not like they just said, I don't fucking care in the heat of an argument. You don't get any more, just firm in what someone is thinking by their actions. And they're showing you they don't fucking care. So
Yeah.
I would say stop trying to coddle your father's feelings of what it would be like if you just got this done. And yeah, initially the intention may have been there. And it is nice to have somebody do something that's only going to do it for the cost of parts. But at the end of the day, if that's what you're doing and your life is being upended and your emotional stress is going through the fucking roof and you're trying to have a baby and you had a miscarriage and the stepmother is being a bitch to you,
Yeah.
go to Craigslist, go to Facebook Marketplace or something.
Angie's List.
Angie's List. Find a fucking contractor that you trust, interview a couple, tell them what's going on, and get somebody in there and get that shit done. And you don't have to tell your dad. You don't have to ask permission from your dad. You're an adult.
No.
You're a grown-ass adult. You don't need to justify this to him. Just say, if he asks about it, oh, I got that done. You don't need to worry about that anymore. Well, I was going to get it. I know you were, but you're really busy and I need to get it done. And that's it. End of fucking story.
You know, we're trying to have a baby where I need my body and my mind to be at peace.
And
when my house is a fucking disaster and things are not the way I need them to be, that doesn't give me peace. And that doesn't give me a place to create this other life, you know?
And don't bring it up before you get a contractor. Get the contractor, get the work going. Because all that's going to happen is if you say, I'm going to get a contractor. Oh, no. I'll get it done. I'll get in there. And maybe he'll show up for a little bit and get a little bit done, but you're going to be back in the same fucking place. Just fucking do it. You're an adult. Fucking do it. And get it done and stop tiptoeing around someone's feelings. Again, who doesn't care about you. It said at the beginning, father's a narcissist. They're never going to care about your feelings. And if you don't have much of a relationship there, a lot of narcissists, I mean, I think they truly want to have the bond with their children or others. And some go to great lengths to torture their children without, I think, realizing it. Others, all they know is to do the motions. And if they do the motions, they think they're doing what is normal, but they don't feel the emotions. They can't appropriately react to the emotions or to understand or empathize what you're feeling. So they'll do the motion sometimes because it's what they think they should do, but they don't feel it. And it's sad if that's how you operate, but I think that's just how some people fucking operate. There's something that's missing. So,
you know, I've known dads, moms that have dropped everything when their child needs something, and they go full balls to the wall. They're going to get this done. They need to pack some stuff up in a truck and haul it somewhere. They need to help them because something happened due to a storm or something. They'll drop everything and help out their child. This is not the example of that parent.
No.
This is somebody who really doesn't care about the chaos in this daughter's life during a very trying time.
And oblivious to it, utterly oblivious. I mean, I think, I don't even know if like care is the right word, because I think in some of these people, care doesn't exist. It's not an emotion that they can see. It's like if you're colorblind and you can't see certain colors. It's not that you don't want to see the color. You can't see the color. It's just not there. So
it doesn't exist.
So if they're not able to comprehend that, don't expect them to react in some sort of way that is an emotional response to what you're going through. They're not able to do it. Now, they may have good intent. They may have meant well, and that's wonderful. But if what they're doing just ends up causing more chaos and all the other shit that was listed in this story, you just got to fucking call it what it is. You don't have to turn it into a big argument or anything. Just be like, I'm getting this done now. Thank you for your help. Thanks for getting it as far as you got it. Really appreciate it. But I'm getting it taken care of, and you'll get some kickback. Just stay firm, get it done, and then, you know, just continue with the relationship as best as you can, as you have been. But stop caring about someone else's feelings who doesn't care about yours.
Yeah. And boy, when I read this email, I'm like, honey, I have been there, and not the fertility treatment and other things, but just a house in chaos. It's not a good situation. And it's not healthy. So you need to do what you need to do and just get it done and get your life back in order, because that kind of chaos of, you know, your kitchen being ripped apart, you know, appliances out in the garage that that's not where they belong. They belong in the house being used. You have them. You deserve to be using them.
I've seen this in so many cases when it's that weird parental adult child dynamic where the narcissist parent isn't the extreme crazy evil narcissist parent where they're trying to control every aspect of the child's life, but they are emotionally just deficit in an area where communicating and feeling anything of the child just doesn't exist. Yet the child clings on and really desperately wants that parent to be this person that they're not, and they live their life almost a slave to the parent's control. I dated a girl like this for a while, where the house was in chaos, and the dad is like, "I'll fix this at some point, and I'll fix that," and it's like, you're missing a ceiling in this room. Oh yeah, we're going to do that this summer. We're going to do that this way or that way. I'm like, well, I can help you with it. Like, I know how to do these things. You know, I'm not going to charge you. You know, I'll probably even buy a lot of the materials myself if you want it. Well, no. My dad's really particular about this or that. It's like, it's your house.
Yeah.
Like it's not about, and so many things. And I watched this dynamic, and it was kind of creepy because I would hear like the phone calls, and it was like she turned into this little girl again when talking to the dad. And she was a pretty strong woman. And it was just like, what the fuck? Like, but that control exists. And you could tell the dad's kind of a narcissist, but again, not the evil, really, but in a way that control is there. And the daughter didn't want to let go of that. I guess it's kind of a safety thing almost. But you're completely at the whim of whenever that narcissist wants to do what they want to do. And it's not going to have anything to do with your feelings or your timetable.
Yeah. And it's all about what's comfortable to you. It's comfortable, even though, this email, she says that she's really uncomfortable talking to him about these things. This is exhausting. This is what she's comfortable with.
Yeah.
We get very used to dysfunction as being normal. Yeah. And, she's trying to bring another life into the world, and she's going to bring it into chaos. So I hope for her sake, she just, like you said, gets a contractor, gets the shit done, and doesn't have a relationship with the contractor, so that, let's just say it does get done and maybe there's a problem, that you don't have to sit and tiptoe for 2 months about how am I going to let him know that this isn't right. So there's all these other things about having a contractor that's a relative or a friend. If there's a problem, that creates a lot of tension. It's just best to have somebody who is not your best friend or your dad do it.
And for the love of God, you're trying to have a baby. Stress affects that greatly. Stress can induce things like miscarriages and things like that. And you don't want that. So you gotta, for everything's sake, get this shit off your to-do list. Get this shit off your plate, because if it's tearing you apart this much, it's going to be that much more difficult to have a kid. It all plays together. So please, just wash your hands of this, get it done, and move forward rather than sitting there and being a slave to whatever the hell your dad feels like doing when he wants to do it. You're an adult. Yeah. Take the control. All right. That's going to wrap up today's episode of the program. If you like us, leave us a review there on Apple Podcasts and take a screenshot of it and then email it to me to contest@crazyfampod.com. You'll be entered to win a $500 Amazon gift card that we'll be giving away later in the year, just for taking that screenshot and leaving us that review. We greatly appreciate that. And share your stories with us. crazyfampod.com is a website to submit them through, or you can call 833-CRAY-FAM, 833-272-9326 to share your crazy family stories with us. We would love to hear them. Until next time, for Stacy, I'm Tony. Thanks for listening to My Crazy Family.
My crazy
family.
My crazy
family.